And if I can have you folks introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Cindy Watts.
Ron Watts.
Thank you. And I have authorized you to make a statement to the court as paternal grandparents of the children. And if you choose not to make a statement, but your designee, Ms. Powers, chooses to, she can do so as well. How would you like to proceed
Can
today?
I read that?
Yeah, do you want me to start?
I want you to start, but I would like to read
Who's
that.
going to be speaking today?
Your Honor, initially, they've asked me, and they're hoping that they have the strength to speak, but if they do not, they've written out their statements and asked me to finish for them. So
That would be fine. Who would like to go first?
if I could start, Your Honor. On behalf of the Watts, Your Honor, and to the community, we thank you for the opportunity and the recognition under the Victim Bill of Rights. We come today as the grandparents and the parent of the daughter and children whose life was taken in this case. We are not here to ask for leniency. We are not in any way condoning or tolerating the crime that has occurred and the pain that has been caused. We join in our daughter-in-law and grandchildren's family in saying this should never have happened. This is not condonable. This is something that we will never get over. We appreciate the consideration that everyone has paid, most especially the families that have lost everyone. We appreciate that they begged for Christopher's life. We agree and echo what they have said, that it is not his place to take anyone's life, nor would it be our place as a community to take his life. So we thank you for the opportunity and for every consideration and effort that's been put out. The prosecution in this case has in fact respected the Victim Bill of Rights. They took the time to explain that the information that my clients had at the time that they were interviewed was not correct. They were misinformed. They were searching for answers. They were not intending to cause any pain to anyone, and they appreciate that the prosecution answered their questions and gave them the time and the respect and the consideration so that they could tell this court and everyone in this community that the interview content was not their message, that they accept that their son has done this, that they accept that he chose to plead guilty, that he sought and requested their consent and agreement for a life sentence. They appreciate that he is given the opportunity to serve that life sentence. It is his responsibility, it is his sentence, and it is not enough to make up for what has done. We understand and we join the family in that we have questions. We don't know how such a thing could possibly happen, or that a man that was responsible for raising his children and protecting his wife would take the steps that he did, and that he would disregard their bodies and the love that he had for them and they had for him and everyone else, and take the gestures and put this community through the investigation and the discovery and the responsibility of bringing justice. We do not understand that. We do not think it was appropriate. We cannot begin to think that an explanation will ever justify it. My clients indicate that they understand that a full opportunity for a confession with all of the responsibility and accountability has not occurred. And they support the family and the request that that happen, if not today, at an appropriate time, in an appropriate manner, so that everyone can have peace, to understand to the best of their ability the details that they need and to have their questions answered. And by giving this opportunity of a life sentence, we hope that he embraces that moment. That had the death penalty been pursued, there would not have been an opportunity to be accountable and to give a full confession. And had the death penalty been sought, counsel would have fought for his life, the prosecutors would have been engaged in a multiple-year battle, the families would have been torn apart, this community would have had to subsidize it and endure it, and we have so much respect and gratefulness that that did not happen. We would strongly encourage Christopher Watts to give that full confession in the tone and in the timing that he thinks is appropriate with the guidance of his counsel. We feel that it would be appropriate and helpful to ease the pain and the suffering. But we also say we don't think that there's anything that he can say that will ever account for his behavior. There's nothing that can be done to cure the harm he has caused.
In the beginning, Cindy Watts believed this story would never be told fairly. As the world rushed to judgment, she felt the weight of a narrative forming without her voice, without her context, without the years of tension she claimed had existed long before August 2018. To her, the tragedy did not begin with flashing lights or police tape. It began quietly, in moments of unease she said were ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood. She watched the news unfold like a nightmare she could not wake from. A missing pregnant woman. 2 missing children. Her son at the center of it all. The shock was immediate, but it was layered with something else: conflict, history, and a belief that the public would never understand what she believed she had seen coming. In Cindy's telling, the relationship between her son and his wife had always felt strained. She described a home filled with tension rather than harmony, a marriage shaped by strong personalities colliding instead of blending. She believed the warning signs were there, hiding in arguments, distance, and what she perceived as emotional volatility. To her, these details mattered. To the world, they sounded like deflection. As investigators moved quickly, Cindy felt pushed to the margins of a story that now belonged to everyone else. Every statement she made would later be dissected, replayed, and judged. Sympathy would be scarce. Doubt would be constant. And her grief would be measured against what people believed a mother should say, or should never say at all. This case would ultimately be defined by unspeakable loss. But from Cindy Watts' perspective, it would also become a story about blame, loyalty, and the devastating cost of speaking when silence is expected. If you want to understand true crime stories from every angle, even the most uncomfortable ones, like this video, subscribe to Shadow of Deceit and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Before the world knew their names for the worst possible reason, the Watts family appeared, at least on the surface, like a modern American success story. Chris Watts was quiet, methodical, and reserved, a man who preferred routine over chaos. He worked steadily, avoided conflict, and rarely drew attention to himself. To those who knew him casually, he seemed dependable, almost invisible. To his mother, Cindy, he was the son who followed rules, avoided trouble, and rarely raised his voice. Shanann Watts was the opposite. She was visible, expressive, and ambitious. She documented her life openly, sharing moments of family, motherhood, and business with an online audience. She was driven, outspoken, and deeply invested in building a future she believed in. Her social media presence painted a picture of energy and optimism, but behind that public image were real struggles, health issues, financial pressure, and a marriage under strain. From Cindy Watts' perspective, these differences were not complementary. She would later describe a relationship that felt unbalanced, where control and conflict quietly replaced affection. She believed her son was changing, retreating further into himself, while the household grew louder, more demanding, and emotionally charged. These observations, she insisted, were not accusations, but concerns she felt powerless to address. The family dynamic between Cindy and Shanann had long been tense. Misunderstandings hardened into resentment, and small disagreements escalated into emotional distance. Holidays became complicated. Communication grew strained. And over time, silence replaced reconciliation. None of this, of course, explains what would come. But these background fractures formed the emotional landscape in which the tragedy later unfolded. A marriage struggling under pressure. A family divided by mistrust. And a mother who believed she saw cracks forming long before the house collapsed. If you're following this story for depth, context, and the details that often go unspoken, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Shadow of Deceit, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. As time passed, Cindy Watts believed the warning signs were no longer subtle. From her perspective, the atmosphere surrounding her son's marriage felt increasingly unstable, shaped by tension that never fully surfaced but was always present. She observed what she interpreted as emotional volatility, moments where small disagreements seemed to carry disproportionate weight, leaving lasting damage in their wake. To Cindy, these were not isolated incidents, but patterns that repeated themselves quietly, consistently, and without resolution. She felt Chris was shrinking inside his own life. Family gatherings revealed a man who spoke less, smiled less, and deferred more. Cindy interpreted his silence as compliance rather than peace, a coping mechanism rather than contentment. She believed decisions were no longer shared, but directed. Financial stress, lifestyle expectations, and public presentation appeared, in her view, to add pressure to an already fragile foundation. Cindy would later point to moments that, at the time, felt troubling but not dangerous. Sharp arguments followed by forced normalcy. Periods of closeness abruptly replaced by emotional distance. The sense that everything needed to look perfect on the outside, even when it wasn't holding together on the inside. She believed these contradictions created an environment where frustration had nowhere to go. Yet even as concerns grew, there was no clear intervention, no dramatic confrontation. Like many families, they normalized discomfort, convincing themselves that tension was simply part of marriage. Cindy has said she felt shut out, unsure of her place, uncertain whether speaking up would help or only deepen the divide. In hindsight, these moments became loaded with meaning. Ordinary conflicts took on a sinister weight after the truth emerged. Red flags that once seemed manageable would later be re-examined under the harsh light of irreversible loss. If you're following this story to understand how warning signs are missed, minimized, or misunderstood, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Shadow of Deceit, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. The morning everything collapsed did not arrive with noise or chaos. It arrived quietly, with absence. From Cindy Watts' point of view, the crime did not begin with violence, but with a silence so loud it could not be ignored.
I wake up every morning just crying, thinking this is not going to be what's going to happen every single day. It's just so hard to get through it. I just don't know how to get through it.
Tell me about his childhood. Did he play sports? Was he in scouts? What kinds of things did
Yes,
he
he
do?
played sports. He played sports from the time he was 5 years old up until he was 17. And he was in basketball, he was in baseball, he was in football, and loved NASCAR. He and his dad went to the NASCAR races all the time. Loved sports. And he was a good kid. Had two best friends, and that's who he grew up with, and still are friends with them today. And there's nothing that would have predicted any of this could have ever happened.
Yeah.
Nothing in his childhood at all. I would have never in a million years thought something like this could happen to him at all.
You didn't see things like him getting into fights? Or...
No fighting. He was quiet, and he got along with people, and he didn't start anything, and he was a perfect teenager, tell you the truth. He did not even rebel. He wanted to go to NASCAR Tech. We made that possible for him.
What did he do after he finished school?
He worked at the dealership as a service technician and was making good money and loved it. He bought a toolbox, and he started buying his tools, and enjoyed it. He was doing well.
When and where did he meet Shanann?
They met in He liked her, she liked him, but it didn't, I don't think that was love at first sight or anything. They took a little while and I guess got to know each other and, you know, dated. It was always a little strange that she always said a lot of things about Chris in front of me that I didn't like. Like, this isn't the kind of person I would date. He doesn't know how to do this, or he doesn't know how to do that. He looks like a skater boy. Look at his hair. Look how much stuff he puts on his hair. It was just on and on and on, and I just got a bad feeling.
And they got married in 2012. Did they get married in North Carolina?
They did. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
We didn't attend.
Really?
Mm-mm. We didn't attend because Shanann and I just couldn't get along, and I didn't like the way she treated him.
What do you know about their marriage and their issues?
Oh, very little, very little. You can only observe. I could only observe what I saw when I was around them. Christopher always seemed anxious, and he when she needed something, I mean, he would run. He wouldn't walk, he would run, he would get it. He just always seemed to be right there at her beck and call.
And did that seem odd to you? Or?
Very odd. It was very odd. He just seemed nervous.
So how much did you see them over these last 6 years?
Probably twice a year. We would go up there.
Did you stay with them, or?
Yeah, we would stay with them and stay a week and then come back home.
Tell me about Bella and Celeste.
Oh, Bella was just like Chris, just like him, shy, cautious, conservative. Cece was a ball of fire. I mean, she was fearless, completely fearless. She just loved to run, 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 run. So they were wonderful. It breaks my heart to know that they're not here. They were beautiful children, beautiful children.
What did they call you?
Mimi.
Mimi? And how about Ronnie? What did they call?
Papa.
Do you think Chris loves Shanann?
Oh God, he loved her. Yes, I believe he loved her at first. I believe he did. But I think as the years went on, I think it just being in that kind of a relationship, which the social worker even said that marriage should have ended a long time ago.
Shanann's pregnancy and what did Chris tell you about that? Was he excited?
No, I don't think he was. I think it was a shock to him. And he said that they have been talking about divorce, that they are not compatible anymore, and he was not happy anymore. And I finally thought he's finally seen the light.
And I take it Chris had never been in trouble with the law?
Never. He's got one speeding ticket and didn't even know about that.
Tell me what happened when they were reported missing. What did you find out? How did you find out? Who told you?
I think Ronnie called me. Ronnie called me and said that they're missing, and I thought, I don't believe it. I didn't believe they were missing. I believed that she was going to punish Chris. She was just going to punish him, take the girls, and just punish him. I had no idea of anything else. Christopher called and said, Mom, they're searching the house. I said, okay, that's fine. I mean, and I still was not worried. I was not worried. I just thought Shanann had run off with girls.
So walk me through the sequence of events over the next few days. Did you and your husband travel to Colorado?
Ronnie did.
Okay.
Ronnie did. And I mean, Christopher let everybody come in. Her phone is there, her purse is there, everything is there. But there's no kids and there's no Shanann. And I was not worried. You know, I thought she has just gone off and I'm going to punish you for this and you can worry about me. But when Christopher called us and he said, I said, do you want us to come down now? He said, tell Dad I need him. Tell Dad I need him to come down. I said, what about me? He said, no, Mom, just stay. Just send Dad. And he picked him up at the airport and they drove to the police station. And Chris still didn't say anything to him. Nothing. He had already been interrogated 7 hours prior to that. He had already let the police go into his home, search everything. He was going in for another interrogation. The next thing, after 5 hours, they called Ronnie and said that your son wants to talk to you before he tells us anything. And that's when Christopher broke down and cried and said, I'm sorry, Dad. He said, I went into a rage and I killed her after she killed Cece and Bella. And he found out where he is and then they wouldn't let him see him. He couldn't see him. And so he was going back to the airport when his public defender called him and told him to come back. And that's when Ronnie met his public defender. And so talked to her for a while. And they kept in touch with us and let us know what's going on.
And then what was the next update that you got? Was it?
The next update I got was Ronnie called Jamie and told them they found their bodies. And they rushed over here. Nobody told me anything until they walked through the door. And they told me what happened and I just fell to the floor. I just fell to the floor. It was unbelievable. And it's been unbelievable ever since. And
what did his attorneys tell you about contact with him, starting with his
none.
arrest?
No contact. Everything is recorded. No contact. No letter writing. I didn't see the harm in the letters. Hi son, love you, keep fighting. We are here to support you. What is wrong with that? What can the DA do about letters like this? Why couldn't we just write him a letter? We did what we were told to do. When they called us to tell us that Chris was thinking of a plea, that he wanted to speak to us about it. And when we got down there, it was a lie. They wouldn't let us talk to him about anything. And then we had to talk to him through a screen and a phone. And he just looked, he was crying. I mean, he wasn't crying. You could see the movement in his mouth that when I talked about Bella and I talked about Cece and the memorial service that we had for them. And he asked what pictures did we use and what was the song. You can see how he was trying to hold back tears.
What day was that? Do you remember?
Well, we flew in on that Monday. We flew in on Monday, and we saw him Monday night, and then the plea deal was on Tuesday.
So Monday night was when you wanted to talk to him about it?
Yes, and we went all
Shanann
out.
Watts and her 2 young daughters were gone. What followed was not a sudden revelation, but a slow, devastating unveiling of facts that grew darker with each passing hour. Cindy would later describe this period as unreal, a waking nightmare where each confirmed detail felt heavier than the last. The crime itself, once uncovered, stood in brutal contrast to the ordinary life that had surrounded it. A husband. A father. A home that appeared stable from the outside. Yet behind closed doors, something had fractured beyond repair. The murders were not impulsive in the way people expect violence to be. They were deliberate, controlled, and final. A decision made in the quiet hours of the early morning, when the world was still asleep. For Cindy, learning how it happened meant confronting a reality she never imagined possible. The son she raised was now at the center of an act that defied every maternal instinct, every memory, every belief she held about him. The weight of that contradiction became unbearable. Love clashed violently with truth. Denial wrestled with evidence. The crime did not just end lives. It dismantled identities. It rewrote family history. And it left Cindy Watts standing in the wreckage, forced to reconcile the son she knew with the man the facts revealed. Nothing that followed could undo what was done. The crime had already carved its place in history, irreversible and unforgiving. And the story was only beginning to expose how deep the damage truly went. In the days that followed, the focus shifted from shock to scrutiny. What unsettled Cindy Watts most was not only what had happened, but how quickly the world began pulling at every thread her son had left behind. From her perspective, the investigation felt relentless, methodical, and merciless. There was no pause for grief. There was no room for confusion. There was only evidence, and it moved faster than emotion ever could. The cover-up unraveled almost immediately. Digital footprints told a story that words could not erase. Phone records, location data, surveillance footage, and text messages painted a timeline that refused to bend. Cindy watched from the outside as each piece locked into place, forming a picture she did not want to see but could not deny. The facts did not accuse with anger. They accused with precision. Law enforcement did not need to chase the truth. It surfaced on its own. Inconsistencies emerged. Behavior raised alarms. What was meant to conceal instead exposed. The attempt to appear calm, cooperative, and ordinary only sharpened suspicion. The investigation was not dramatic in the way crime shows portray it. It was quiet, steady, and devastatingly effective. For Cindy, this stage was where hope began to fracture. Every update stripped away another layer of disbelief. The idea that there might be a misunderstanding dissolved as forensic details became impossible to explain away. Evidence did not care about intent or upbringing. It only reflected actions. The investigation did not just target a suspect. It dismantled a family's private world and laid it bare for public consumption. Every message, every movement, every choice was examined under a harsh, unblinking light. Cindy found herself caught between instinct and inevitability, watching the system do what it was designed to do, even as it crushed what remained of her certainty. By the time the truth fully emerged, there was nothing left to hide. The cover-up had failed. The investigation had spoken. And the weight of reality settled in, heavy and irreversible. The courtroom marked a turning point where belief gave way to finality. For Cindy Watts, this was not a place of answers, but of endings. The legal process moved with a gravity that no emotion could interrupt. Evidence that had once circulated in reports and headlines was now formalized, weighed, and sealed into record. The state did not argue in feelings. It argued in facts, timelines, and irreversible conclusions. The decision to plead guilty closed the door on a public trial, but it did not soften the impact. There would be no drawn-out courtroom drama, no prolonged unraveling in front of cameras. Instead, there was a quiet efficiency that made the outcome feel even more severe. Cindy watched as the justice system moved swiftly toward a sentence that could never be undone. Life imprisonment was not framed as punishment alone, but as containment. A permanent separation between one man and the world he destroyed. In that moment, Cindy's perspective fractured. A mother's instinct to protect collided with the undeniable weight of accountability. The court did not ask her to understand. It did not ask her to agree. It only asked that the law be carried out. And it was. The sentencing was absolute. Multiple life terms ensured there would be no future beyond prison walls. No chance for reinvention. No space for redemption in the traditional sense. The finality of it settled into the room like cold air, leaving nothing untouched. For Cindy, this chapter was not about justice in the abstract. It was about loss layered upon loss. The loss of grandchildren. The loss of a daughter-in-law. And the loss of the son she thought she knew. The court closed its case, but for her, the sentence marked the beginning of a different kind of prison, one built from memory, regret, and questions that would never be answered. The aftermath rippled far beyond the courtroom, touching every life that had once orbited this family. Grief did not arrive quietly. It flooded communities, divided households, and hardened opinions. For the victims' loved ones, the loss was public and permanent, a pain replayed endlessly across screens and headlines. Vigils flickered in the dark, candles standing in for lives that should have continued. Strangers wept for children they never met, for a woman whose future had been violently erased. Within Cindy Watts' world, the reaction was more isolating than loud. Sympathy was scarce, often replaced by suspicion or anger. Many could not separate the crimes from the family name, and the weight of that judgment pressed in from every direction. Support fractured. Long-time relationships grew distant. Silence became safer than speaking, and retreat felt like survival. The wider public searched for meaning, for someone to blame, for a way to understand how something so ordinary could become so monstrous. Online debates spiraled into absolutes, stripping nuance from a tragedy that resisted simple explanations. In that noise, the human cost was sometimes lost, the empty bedrooms, the birthdays that would never come, the parents and grandparents left to grieve in parallel but never together. This chapter is not about vindication. It is about consequence. A reminder that violence radiates outward, wounding people who never chose to be part of the story. Justice may close a case, but it does not heal a community. Healing, if it comes at all, arrives slowly and unevenly, shaped by time, accountability, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. If this story has stayed with you, if it's made you reflect on the cost of silence and the fragility of trust, share your thoughts below. Your perspective matters. And if you want more deeply researched, cinematic true crime stories from Shadow of Deceit, remember to like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next.